June 7. Dearest Suzie, I really enjoyed talking to you this morning, but I must admit I am twice as homesick now, especially after Brian's begging me to please come home. That got me right where it hurts. After I talked to you, I went back to the villa intending to get a nap since I got up at 5 o'clock. When I got there, our Saigon officer was waiting for me. I had to pack immediately and return to Vin Long so I could pack up and move to Da Nang. So, here I am, all packed and ready to go. My platoon moved out early this morning. I will meet them in Da Nang tomorrow. I have no idea what is going on, but we were told that we would be up there for 30 days. About our bonds. I guess they never got my request to change it. I will have to put in another one. They are only holding out for a $50 bond. Bud Bender is going to take care of Charlie for me for the next 30 days. I'm tickled that Mickey has offered to come down and help you drive up. I hope you took him up on it, even though you won't have a car up there. Well, never a dull moment over here. I love you very much and miss you twice as much now, if that were possible. All my love, Bill. The following is the first part of a piece I wrote, titled Shooting an Elephant in Vietnam. It is based off of a Stars and Stripes article I found from 1965, Popi's materials, and the essay, Shooting an Elephant, by George Orwell. I hope you enjoy. Upon reflection, in Vin Long and the Mekong River Delta of Vietnam, I was hated by a large number of people. This was not the first time, or the last for that matter, I had been important enough for this to happen. However, it was likely the only time that the hate was all justified. I was an American pilot, stationed in the air base outside of town, and, caught up in the long history of Vietnamese freedom fighting, anti-American sentiment was quite resounding in the area. None of the locals had the guts to take up arms themselves, however, we knew that when we weren't around, they were giving a detailed account of our every movement to the VC. Communist eyes and ears were no doubt on every street corner outside of base. All of this was quite upsetting, as I had already made up my mind that though America was not evil, I did not belong in this foreign country, and I doubted whether or not any soldier did at all. I was not for communism or the Vietnamese people. I simply believed that the lives of all people, but mainly Americans, were more important. As for the job I was doing, I found myself increasingly filled with fear every time I boarded my helicopter, afraid that I would not come down from the air alive. I managed to make it through the war without any major injuries, all while carrying out the orders I was given, prioritizing my safe return home to my wife and kids not arriving in a pine box. One day something happened which was enlightening. It was a tiny incident, but it gave me a better glimpse than I had ever before of the real nature of our war, the real motives for why we were risking American lives in Vietnam. On our way back to base from flying some routine mission, a door gunner clogged up our radios with inaudible pleas for my attention. Upon further investigation, I found that he had spotted what he thought to be an elephant in the distance, just in a clearing near a rice paddy. He begged me to let him do something about it. I knew what I wanted to do, but I also knew what our orders were. Elephants were open season in Vietnam for us Americans. They were pack animals and suspected of moving supplies around for the enemy. We were obligated to engage them. My co-pilot reminded me of policy and insisted that we talk things over with our gunner. All it took was the threat of a reporting to my CO, and I yielded my insistence that we just fly home. I radioed what we were going to do to the other birds in formation and peeled off in pursuit of the enemy combatant. The elephant, of course, had not actually done anything, and there was no evidence presented to prove that it was complicit in VC operations. However, we pursued the beast anyway. As it turned from a fuzzy gray blob to what I knew elephants to look like, I was reminded of my recent trip to Saigon. While on R&R, a few buddies of mine thought it would be fun to visit the zoo, which, in their defense, was popularly frequented by American GIs. This zoo had a small elephant, and this particular specimen was in a tiny pen that seemed much too constrictive for quite a large mammal. I remember thinking that it was oddly charismatic for something that lived such a terrible life. Like always, I had my camera on hand and snapped quick shots of other animals or the school children that ran around on field trips, but concentrated primarily on the playful pachyderm and the way it made the children smile. How, I asked myself, how could life go on so regularly here when things are so hectic, not a whole 2-hour flight away from here? The zoo's elephant was expressive, but I remembered his eyes most. I knew not what he was thinking, but I knew something was going on behind that trunk. Piercing static feedback interrupted my thoughts as my door gunner snorted over the comms. "Turn to the right a bit so I can get a good line of sight, and don't get too low. I don't want you scaring off this Charlie. We can't let him get back into the trees. I did what I was asked, and within moments the M60 roared to life. My co-pilot screamed in approval, fueled by adrenaline and testosterone, but I felt so alone, since no one at base or in the nearby village really knew what we were doing. Elephants were important to most natives in this country. I had seen a few statues of them in temples I visited, since they were an essential part of Vietnam's cultural heritage, and, according to our intel, also crucial to maintaining VC supply lines. But where were the natives now? And why could they not fire up a few warning shots letting us know that their soldiers are not to be trifled with so easily? I obviously had no intention of shooting the elephant. I did not know how killing such a thing would help us to defend ourselves, but I let the gunner do what he was supposed to do. It was a serious matter to shoot a working elephant, I'm sure. If the intel proved true, comparable to destroying a jeep or a tank, and obviously had we not been in a war, we would not have done it. From the air, and at a distance, peacefully chewing on some grass, the elephant looked no more dangerous than a cow. I turned my head from the action, knowing I did not need to watch. Just as soon as it began, the shooting ended. The M60 was muzzled, and my gunner bragged about his heroic triumph over the radio. "What now?" I asked my co-pilot. "I'll radio base," he replied. "See if the mess hall could use some extra protein. Lord knows I'm tired of sea rations. Worst comes to worst, we can take the meat to the village. You know they're always begging for food." I looked down to see the elephant laying on its side, almost appearing to have red polka dots all over its body. The thick blood was gushing from its sides like red velvet and began pooling, eventually running downhill into the paddy. I wondered if it would stain the rice. Maybe not, I responded to myself. After all, the blood of other VC doesn't seem to. I put the bird down just next to the carcass and allowed the gunner to jump off and confirm the kill, much to his excitement. I was thankful that I had forgotten my camera in my bunk that day. I didn't know how I could have told him no if he asked me to take his picture with his trophy. As I jumped to the ground, I routinely scanned the tree line for any sign of the enemy, but the eyes of the elephant ensnared me. I could not look away. They were open. They were expressive. Just like the elephant I had seen just weeks before. The sad existence in the zoo didn't seem so bad after all. That elephant would never have to worry about strafing from foreign combatants. The gunner immediately began dressing the animal. We may have been thousands of miles away from home and carving up something foreign, but a farm boy always somehow knew the best way to field dress a carcass. With the help of the co-pilot, he made quick work of the body, and by the time he was done, we got word back from the base that we did not need the meat. We were told that it would be best if we gave it to the village as an act of gory philanthropy. My guys asked me to help load everything on the Huey, but I insisted on maintaining the perimeter, even if I did only have my .45 on me. I knew I'd have enough work on my hands when we got back to base, and I had to wash away all the blood from the inside and outside of the chopper. I always ended up having to do that myself anyway. The photo I chose for today is an elephant in a zoo. It could be the Saigon or the Bangkok Zoo. He almost looks like he's smiling. I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Popi wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.